Today we're going to talk about it. Print failures. Stay tuned. So if you've been 3D printing for any length of time, you know failures happen. Why do they happen now? Well, today we're going to kind of go over some of the things I've personally learned, and it won't stick to the bed. You find a big ball of spaghetti inside your print, or you find little layer lines that have shifted, or it just won't print correct at all. Well, today we're going to talk about a few of those little things and maybe things you can do to help correct them. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is bed adhesion. And you may say, what is that? Well, it's simply sticking to the plate. These little build plates, you can't just use them and not take care of them. One thing that's required with any printer, of course, is maintenance. Cleaning of these is very important. You know, if you're going to be taking pieces off of here with your hands, oils and grease and any dust gets in there, anything that gets stuck on this build plate is inevitably going to get stuck on your print, which could cause your print to not stick to this plate. Now there's a few other things that could also cause it other than fingerprint oils, and it could be the settings that you're using in the printer. Are you using the correct settings for the materials that you're using? PLA being the most common is pretty easy to deal with, but it does work in a certain temperature range. Is your heat bed getting warm enough to provide a good stick for the print? Another setting you actually want to take a look at, and it should be something you're doing on a relatively frequent basis, is calibrations. Most machines do have a calibration setting, and it's good to use it. Little environmental factors, you know, if the machine gets bumped or there's any other vibrations, the machine will vibrate itself as it's working. May knock some of those minor adjustments out of place. And over time, those things will build up and eventually cause your prints to fail. So if your printer has a calibration setting, use it, check it. Make sure your settings are within the spec of your machine. Another thing to check is the actual settings for your filament. If you look on most reels have a little sticker that has settings on it. Temperature settings, bed settings, print head settings. Double check these against what your machine is set up to do. Believe me, it makes all the difference. Not all the PLA is the same. Not all PETG is the same. For instance, this is a glow filament. And believe me, it has given me such a hard time because I didn't check the settings exactly the best. Double check your settings. Very, very important. Another thing that can affect your prints is also environmental factors too. From the deepest cold in the winter to the extreme heat in the summer. Everything can affect how your prints come out. If you're, for instance, like I print my stuff, I'm in the basement of my home. So during the winter, it's very cold down here. And it affects bed adhesion, believe it or not. Even with an enclosed printer, just the environmental cold can affect how your prints stick to the build plate. And then when it comes to the extreme heat of the summertime too, if you're putting your printer in a room and it's really, really warm, you know, it may cause the filament to get a little bit more sticky. So environmental factors do take part of your prints as well. So double check where you put your printer. Another thing that could also affect your prints, believe it or not, is bad designs. It does happen. I got a design off of the internet for a pool noodle sword, and I was making some for a gentleman that I work with for his grandkids, and he came back to me in a week and he was like, these things are breaking. I'm like, huh? Okay. And I printed another one for him, thinking, it might have been a fluke. But he came back saying that that one broke the same way. Of course, the kids might have been a little bit hardy with their playing of the pool noodle sword, but I had to do a little bit of failure analysis for myself just to see what was going on. And it's actually not the greatest of designs. Just because it looks cool on the internet doesn't mean it's always going to be print, or it's going to print well and be functional. This particular print, I know from an engineering standpoint, just does not work well, and was kind of a waste for me. I wasted a lot of filament because I had to reprint and create different designs just to help the guy out. And as an engineer and looking at things, you can see why they do fail. Sometimes if you're expecting your printer to print something small and very detailed and there's no support to it, you could have failures, and you probably will have failures. And then there's engineering issues. You know, like I said, somebody designed something that looks really cool, but when they went to go use it, it breaks easy. It wasn't designed properly. So sometimes it may not necessarily be your fault. It's just the fault of the design. And also, last but not least, supports. A lot of times, certain things you need to print, even if you do have slightly incorrect settings on the print bed, can be made up with either a support or a brim. And if you don't know what I'm talking about by a brim, I'll use this failed part. It didn't fail because of the brim, it failed for another reason, but if you see that little rim around the edge of the part, that's called a brim. It's basically a small little island for your part to print on. So you can go into your settings and either use a brim or physically use the supports. I mean, if you have things that are overhanging on the build plate, you're going to need that the printer needs to have some way of printing to it. So you're going to need supports. All right, folks. So, what do you think? Have you experienced a print failure? Do you have any questions about print failures? If so, hey, leave a comment. I'd love to share some information with you. Again, this is just my brief experience. Now, I say brief. I'm over a couple of years working in 3D printing so far. But I'd like to hear from you guys. Please leave a comment down below. If there's information you want to share with me, some suggestions for me, please leave that comment down below. I'd also like to, if you could, go to patreon.com/Ryan's Workbench. Please think about becoming a member. This channel does need support. And last but not least, like and subscribe. Do it now. Do it now. We'll see you next time.